John 2:23. Cum autem esset Hierosolimis in Pascha in die festo, multi crediderunt in nomine eius, videntes signa eius quae faciebat. And when he, that is Jesus, was in Jerusalem at the Passover on the festal day or on the holy day, many believed in his name, seeing, or probably better, when they saw his signs which he was doing. Cum autem esset is a good example of what we just saw in the last verse, which is what we might call cum circumstantial, what is actually what grammarians usually call this construction. Cum circumstantial with the subjunctive mood, remember, indicating the general circumstances under which something takes place, as opposed to the specific day or date or time, when we would expect cum plus the indicative instead. When he was at Jerusalem, and here this is a locative, and the form is a bit weird because, of course, Jerusalem is not a native Latin word. It's from Hebrew, ultimately transliterated through Greek. Why is Jerusalem plural? I think I've talked about this before in these videos. Interestingly, in antiquity, often, at least in Greek and Latin, the names of cities and towns and villages are plurals. And probably that is a linguistic development of the fact that the very notion of a city is that of a gathered community of many individuals, right? So that might help you not to be too weirded out by this and to remember that it's quite common, not just with Jerusalem, but with the names of many cities. He was at Jerusalem at, we would probably say, the Passover on the festal day, on the holy day. Now, probably the best way, since this is just reflecting a Greek phrase that's kind of pleonastic, the best way to translate this or think about this is to take it all together. That is to say, when he was at Jerusalem on the holy day of the Passover, something like that. We can just take it all as kind of one unit. Many people, crediderunt, believed, third person, perfect, active, indicative, in the name of him, videntes. This is a good illustration of how participles work in Latin. This isn't just seeing as they were his signa, his signs. That is, we might have said in another text, virtutes. Virtus among the Romans in classical times meant the quality of manliness, from which the sense of virtue, that is moral excellence, developed. But there's also kind of this technical meaning, virtutes, as acts of power. And that's what's meant here by signa, right? Manifestations of his identity as the Son of God, signs pointing to who he is fundamentally. That's a big question with which the Gospel of John and the Evangelist is concerned. But videntes here, we would probably say, remember, the participle has relative time, relative to the tense of the main verb. So they believed in him, and at that same time, in the past, namely when they were believing in him, they were seeing his signa. And participles often can carry a causal sense because they were seeing, or a temporal sense when they were seeing, and that's probably what we have here is the temporal sense. They believed in his name when they were seeing, or as they were seeing his signa. And we've got a nice simple relative clause at the end here, which he was doing.